and welcome to Viewpoint. I'm Rahim Rahimtullah. I'm joined today by Yulia Serdyukova. She is the producer of documentary film All Things Ablaze. Ms. Serdyukova, many thanks for joining us. Tell us a little bit about this film, All Things Ablaze. It focuses on the Maidan, the uprising, winter of 2013, 2014 here in Ukraine, known now, I think, probably all across the world. Your film offers a view of those events. Tell us a little more.
Yes, this film was shot by three directors, Oleksandr Techynskyi, Aleksey, Solodunov, and Dmitry Stoykov. They are photographers, three friends, and they came from photography to video reportages gradually. And the footage which they filmed for the film was initially filmed for a website of a German newspaper, Frankfurter Allgemeine Zeitung. When Maidan started, they started doing video reportages. But gradually they realized that something big is happening and that probably we will do a film out of it. And we changed our attitude towards this shooting and started to shoot it more thoroughly.
So was that because the Maidan quickly escalated? It started perhaps around November time in 2013. A few students were on the streets, but then quickly the government tried to crush those protests with violence.
Yes, I think that on the 1st of December, when people came out to the streets against the violence against students, it was already clear that it will be a big event. Yes.
Yes, I mean the film is very dramatic footage. It shows the fighting between the protesters, between the government forces. Your film, it seems, is somewhat unique in that you have footage from both sides of this conflict. How did you get that access?
Well, we had three directors, and they have very good experience as photo reporters, like more than 10 years of experience. And they know how to move quickly, where to stand, from which point to shoot, and how to talk to people, how to persuade people to let them shoot them. So I think that this experience lets them do it. It was like a big part of it was this experience, and a big part of it was luck. One of the crew, Aleksey Solodunov, he's just that kind of lucky guys who doesn't look intimidating. And when he accidentally happened to be on the police side, they didn't hit him at first, and they didn't arrest him, because it was dangerous for photo reporters, for video reporters to be near police.
Yes.
But he stayed with them, and they just didn't pay attention.
Okay.
And he managed to record this footage.
What kind of shots are these that you got? I mean, is it do you see the police sort of committing acts of violence towards protesters?
Yes, he shot police attacking protesters, and actually he managed to shoot until the moment when he started to record policemen hitting unarmed protesters lying on the ground.
Yes.
And when they saw him shooting that, they crushed his camera and his finger.
Yes.
But we think it's a little sacrifice.
Yes.
He was lucky not to be beaten. Yeah.
Yeah, to suffer further injury. I mean, so is this footage potentially could prove important in the investigations which are still going on now into exactly what happened there and who is to blame for the protesters? I mean, many of whom lost their lives. There's 100 protesters.
We hope so, because some time ago Ukrainian prosecutors found us and asked us to share this footage with them. So we have given it. So we hope that it will be one of the evidences.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, we do have a clip of the film, which we would like to see now. So this is All Things Ablaze, a short trailer coming up now here on Ukraine Today. So that was a short clip from All Things Ablaze, the producer of which joins me here in the studio, Mrs. Serdyukova. Ms. Serdyukova, many thanks for joining us. We've just seen there some of the dramatic footage of the film. Tell us a little bit about how it's been received abroad.
It was received very well. The premiere was in Leipzig, in a very famous documentary film festival, Doc Leipzig, and we received a prize for the best Eastern European documentary. And later this film was in a long list of European Academy Awards. So it was very honorable for us, of course. And the film was in many film festivals, from United States to India, from London to New Caledonia, all over the world.
Yes.
And everywhere there are full halls and lots of questions from the audience. And despite these films, shows how the violence escalated, and it shows protesters also from not very bright side.
No,
because aggression and violence eventually was from both sides.
Yes, yes, because
people in all the world, they understand what's going on, and they sympathize with protesters, and no one sees this film as anti-Ukrainian or anti-revolutionary.
Yes.
Unlike, for example, in Ukraine, some very patriotic people, they are nervous, and they criticize it more than people from abroad.
Yes.
Because they're afraid that we show to the world all untidy, sides of this revolution.
Absolutely. Yeah, I wanted to ask you about that, actually. I mean, does your film, does it take a side, as it were? How did you try to show the events? Because, I mean, what happened on Maidan whilst it was going on, and since everything happened, it's become extremely polarized. I mean, the information war surrounding events is become almost bigger than the events themselves. I mean, we have Russia saying it was neo-Nazis and fascists who were on the Maidan and who are now in control of the government here. So, I mean, were you aware of that when you were making this film, that you needed to be very careful with how you portrayed events, and did you want to make sure it was balanced? Did you try to show the protesters in a good way?
Of course, we tried to maintain this balance, because all of us, all three directors and me, we came from journalistic circles, and we tried to show both sides and not to take side. It was very difficult, extremely difficult.
Yes.
And sometimes, for example, I called the boys, like telling what's going on, and I told them, like, ours are running there and policemen running there, and they told me, remember not to say ours, because we are journalists and we have to keep this balance.
Yes.
And after we finished the film, when we were editing it, we tried to show the tragedy of it and the human side of this kind of violent clashes.
Yes, yes. Serdyukova, I'm sorry, we're almost out of time. So, I mean, ultimately then, with this film, did you try to somehow rise above then the propaganda, and you try to just look at it in a wider context, in the context of history, if I may say so?
Yes, of course, we tried to for us, it was the first, and I hope the last revolution we witnessed. And of course, history repeats itself, but we witnessed it for the first time with our own eyes, and we tried to understand what was going on from the point of view of human nature. I'm not sure we can call it above, but from a side, yes. And we tried to understand it from the perspective of how a human being behaves in such circumstances, and how it tries to keep humanity, to maintain human, and sometimes it fails. So it was an attempt for a broader view, yes.
Absolutely. Well, I think it's a very important piece of work. It tries to tell the history of what is complicated events, which I think we're still trying to understand. But unfortunately, that's where we'll have to leave our conversation today, because we're out of time. But I'd like to thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you for inviting me.
You've been watching Viewpoint. I've been joined by Yulia Serdyukova. She is the producer of documentary film All Things Ablaze. Now, do stay on Ukraine today because you will be able to watch that film with us right here. But for now, that's all we have time for. Do join us again.